Okay, I am here with Dr. Shiv Someshwar from the International Research Institute for Climate and Society at Columbia University. Could you explain a little bit about the project you're working on, trying to bridge the gap between the science and the implementation of that science? Is that right?
Okay, yeah. As we were talking, there is a lot of awareness and passion to do something about the impacts of climate change. And there is also a lot of science both on the climate side, as well as some of the risk management side, as in agriculture, food security, how to better manage these climate risks. But the gap that we were talking about is really about how do you kind of change, even with the best information, these reactive government institutions, reactive agencies, even humanitarian organizations that do a really great job in reacting to, for example, a disaster, from reaction to more of an anticipatory risk management. How do you begin to anticipate using the best science that is available globally? How do you kind of do that? And we do a lot of this work, not only in the kind of the theoretical sense, but then we begin to demonstrate this in real world settings. I'll give you a couple of examples. One good example is the project we have just completed recently in the central Kalimantan province of Indonesia. We are working with a whole lot of local stakeholders, including the Department of Environment, CARE Indonesia, and this was a Dutch-funded project. And we have a collaborative institute in Indonesia called CCROM. That is the Center for Climate Risk and Opportunity Management in the Bogor Agriculture University. So all of the stakeholders, including local communities, we came together and we got the best of science by which we could now say that we can predict hotspots, fires, 2 months in advance. And now the issue is, how do you incentivize the local communities and the local institutions so that either they don't use fire during these periods where there is a higher probability of hotspots, or they do controlled burning. Okay, so you need to then go beyond science into looking at what incentive structures need to be there to enable communities or to enable government agencies to do the right thing. So while an emphasis in the negotiation has been kind of targeting just the science part and saying, well, there are these uncertainties, we can't really do anything much about until we really kind of lessen the uncertainties, I think that is misplaced. We know enough about the science and enough about managing risks that you need to have a portfolio of approaches to better adapt to climate change.
So in some ways we should be reassured that the answers are there, the scientific answers are there, we can solve the problems. So it's really a case now of implementing them sensibly and working in collaboration with the authorities, with governments.
Exactly. I think it is. We have science there, and science will evolve. Science will get better. And here we're not only talking just of climate science, but all these other aspects also of how do you manage risks, what kind of incentives, what kind of intergenerational issues. The governance structures are extremely important. So all of those understanding and applications will improve. Okay, so, but right now what we really need to be doing is much more focused, channel our passion that you have in Cancun into, okay, how do you actually work together to make this happen? And there are many of these institutions across the world that we work with from Columbia University which are doing this. And now the issue is, okay, how do you begin to scale up some of these micro successes so that you actually begin to kind of make sense. So we do a lot of work in Asia, that the Asia Pacific project, that program that I lead at Columbia University for my institute. We also have a really good program in Africa and in Latin America. And we work with some of the world's best leading scientists in these regions. And so there is also a lot of emphasis on north-south connection as well as kind of south-south capacity building and training.
So it's working, is it, when you're talking on that level, Latin America, the scheme you're working
Definitely.
on? Governments are responding, are they, to your initiative?
See, governments are responding, but now there is, I think, a total recognition that it's not enough to have these kind of scientific advances at this kind of micro scale. We really, given the nature of the challenge that we have facing us, we really need to scale up. And that's where, I guess, the folks out at the Moon Palace, who are really now trying to come to terms about having these international agreed upon processes on adaptation, technology transfer, and so on. I think this is where we really need to make sure that they get an understanding and they get the comfort to know that, look, there is science and there is good work being done, but we now begin to really need to scale up.
And are you confident they're going to heed that message?
I think so. I think there are a lot of bright folks, smart folks with good hearts, passionate about it in these governments, and I think we're really going to see some things coming out. And I think to hope for a single global treaty is maybe too much. Maybe it was never the way to go. I don't know. I don't work on international negotiations, but what my colleagues tell me at Columbia University is there are other ways of getting what we want, because we no longer option of saying, oh, we need to have better science. We run out of options right now.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.